Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Tiffany, a retired librarian turned homeschool mom. So in this video we're going to be talking about this book. This is Wild Magic by Tamora Pierce. Now, if you're watching the rest of the series, of which this is the first of 4, this is a reshoot. Months later I went to edit this and the file wouldn't play. So this is an emergency reshoot to get this done. So if the background looks different and I look slightly different, it's because literally this is months later. It's several months later. I think I filmed the originals back in like February. It's September. So this is a more present view than the previous videos. So let's get on with this book. Thankfully, I know this book really well. This is the first book I ever read of Tamora Pierce's I found in the library. And I think the Immortals Quartet, which is what this is, the first book in, is my favorite. So in this book, we meet Diane, I believe is how they pronounce it. For some reason, I pronounce it Diane in my head, as it goes when you're reading books. And she's a young girl. She's about 13, and she starts off, she's wanting to be an assistant horse mistress to this woman who's traveling to Tortall. This is Una, who's she's an expert in horses. She works for the Queen's riders, which if you watch my previous videos on Elena, that's kind of what Queen Thiat, whether or not I'm pronouncing that, was planning to put together. So this, you get a look at the Queen's riders in this book. So Una is gathering these ponies, and Diane, or Dane, 13-year-old young girl and her pony are coming to basically work. And she's very good with a bow, so Una takes her on because she's young and she's not sure what the heck would happen to her. So they travel, and Una realizes that Dane has some interesting ways with horses. She kind of acts like a pony herself, is how she asserts dominance over the ponies. And the way she treats them is almost as if she's speaking to them, which, of course, from the point of Dane, she is. She can understand them. She just doesn't understand she's unusual. Now, in the course of their travels, she rescues a very strange, I think it's a raven or a crow. It's a very large blackbird. I can't remember which one it is. That is escaping, and Una basically says she had to find it, and Dane goes to look for this bird because she's better at marshcraft. They're in a marsh at the time than Dane is, and she's just kind of better at what she's doing. So she finds him. She's trying to heal him, but she can't get him to get better. He's not eating. He's getting sick. He has a broken wing, and she doesn't understand why he's so important because Una keeps keeping secrets from her, which is frustrating. So Una eventually contacts what turns out to be Elena and a group of the King's Own, and turns out this bird is a very, very powerful wizard by the name of Numair, though technically his real name is Aram Draper, but he goes by Numair Samaline. Again, I'm not sure on the pronunciations. A lot of this is in my head. And I'm not big on audiobooks, so I've never listened to them, so I don't hear how they're possibly properly pronounced. But he stays with them after Elena goes back, as they're dealing with the Emperor of Carthage, who becomes a major figure, at least to the first, pretty much through the next parts of this series, as well as, well, actually not, the rest of this series. He does pop up in, no, he's done at the end of the series. I'm trying to think if he's in the next series, but he's not, because he's destroyed. Moving on. So he's the major villain in this, is this Emperor of Carthage, however you pronounce it. It's the southern kingdom. It's across the sea. They have slaves. But that gets into the next parts of the book series. So they travel back. Una hires her to work with them. And at one point, while they're still at the castle, in the castle complex with King Jonathan, who asks her to work with them, that Numair realizes she has wild magic, which is different than his academic magic. It's far less controlled. And she can actually speak to the animals. And she starts working with him. to a little bit. But she also, we learn later in the book that her mother, her mother sent her away to help a friend. Bandits attacked their village and killed her family, basically. Killed everybody on her farm, all the animals, everything. And her mother and her grandfather. So everybody was killed. And she kind of went crazy and joined with a wolf pack and started hunting the bandits and acting like a wolf. And then her own village was going to try to kill her. And by this time, of course, her pony Cloud had gotten her acting human again by this point. And so that's when she left. And it's like, part of it, she was angry at them because after her mother, who was a village healer, had helped them and birthed their babies and so on and so forth, basically they did nothing. And they took days to come and check on them. So she was kind of pissed off, understandably. So she also, through the travel, the other thing that happens is she interacts with the male badger god, and he's irritated with her because time passes faster in the mortal realms than the immortal realms, and he checked on her when she was a baby and she grew up before he was paying attention and disappeared on him. So he was mad at her. So he gives her this, and you kind of see it in the image here. This is his silver claw. So she wears it around her neck. But she, in her studies with Numair, she's afraid of losing herself completely. And eventually she is pushed by the badger to tell Numair and Una about what happened. And Numair helps her uses magic to help her separate her wild magic from herself so she doesn't lose herself again. And so she's able to work with him a bit more without hiding things, which is kind of what she was doing. And she started being able to heal animals. And then they run into these creatures called Stormwings. Now, they had run into those at the palace. They had crossed over from the immortal realms. They're half human, half metal bird is the best way to describe Stormwings. And they feed off human despair, and they basically destroy battlefields. So they also, in the course of traveling to the summer training grounds of the riders, run into griffins, which again they had not been seen for a very long time. And Diane is able to speak to them and explain that they don't like livestock because they chase the villagers away. They don't like livestock. They eat fish. So that's kind of what they do. And again, if you don't know what a griffin is, it's essentially the giant bird, if I remember correctly. They're horse birds. The griffins are just basically, they're huge golden birds, eagle birds. So if I remember correctly, I think they have parts of lions in them. They're brought up, oddly enough, more. You learn more about griffins, oddly enough, in the Protector of the Small series, which I'll cover eventually. I don't think it's due this year. Moving on. But you see George again as an adult. You're seeing again Elena, who's traveled with them as an adult, and her 2 children, as well as Thiat's 2 children. So you see, oddly enough, Elena has 4. She has 3. She has an older son who's named after her brother Tom, and then she has 2 younger. She has a pair of twins, and then Queen has her 2 oldest children, the heir, and Princess Caslin, and I don't remember the name of the boy. I think it's named after Jonathan's father, which is slipping my mind at the moment. But they ended up kind of working a little bit. Diane teaches them about the horses. So, and they're really, really young. I think the prince is 9, the princess is 8, and Thom is like 4. Or no, he's 6. So they're still they're young. They're pretty young at this point. So, but then the Stormwings had shown up. They know they're sneaking around spying, and they don't know what the heck they're up to. And then there's a siege on the castle, and Elena had been called away. So, for some sort of trolls. And by the time they get back, the castle's surrounded. So, and then they're basically they're mages on these barges out in the water, and they're imposing magic to basically blocking spells. So that's preventing healing from going on, and it's kind of stressful, and Newmar's trying to keep it off so they can save people's lives. Dane eventually, with the help of some of her animal friends and understanding that she has to let them help because they've been influenced by her, shows them how to basically sabotage at least the people on land. And then she goes down to the ocean. She tries to reach out to whales, and they want nothing to do with her. And then she reaches out to what amounts to be a kraken, which if you're not familiar with that, it's a giant squid or an octopus. It's a kraken. And he comes and destroys things. She also, this is where we interact with her dragon. The Karthaki wizards basically rip this dragon who's in labor on her way home into their realms, and she's pissed off. And she's going to attack the castle because they tell her that the wizards on the barge tell this dragon, who's highly intelligent, that the queen, Diane, and her children are responsible for this. And Diane accidentally heals her, which she basically, the dragon, because of her wild magic, pulls healing and heals her. So she goes back into labor, she disappears. She shows back again, pissed off, and decides to start attacking things, and is killed. And then the kraken shows up, and he destroys the barges. And I think Nima eventually sends her off. At this point, Dane collapses because she's exhausted. And I think a Stormwind tries to kill her at this point, but she's given magic by her pony, who's pissed off at her because Cloud couldn't find her. So then Diane wakes up, and she has to go find this baby dragon. So she has Sky Song with her. So you interact with this infant dragon the mother's been killed. She has to take care of her because the mother helped her. So she feels responsible. And that's kind of the end of this book. It's kind of a coming-age story. It's basically Dane is found a community that accepts her. Because at the end of this, it's like Newbear wants her. She has a home, essentially. She has all these nobles who basically want to give her a home because she's helped them. And she's no longer a bastard child in a village of the village healing woman. So it's a very, very good book. It's a start of a very interesting quartet. I enjoy Tamora Pierce. I read her in my early 20s. I found her in the public library. So I was roaming the teen section when I was probably about 19. So I was technically still a teen. They're great fantasy stories. You can probably read this separate from the Song of the Lioness Quartet and still kind of understand it. It's still better to read the Song of the Lioness Quartet. I think you might get something more out of it. But again, I read these first, then I read Elena because I didn't realize it. So, but still, I really love this author. I will finish her series, and I will probably, at a later date, I will cover the next Tortall series, which is the Protector of the Small, and then she has a prequel series, which I don't know what's called, but it has to do with an ancestor of George Cooper, Elena's husband. So, and I have already previously covered the Circle of Magic Quartet, as well as the Circle Opens Quartet and the Will of the Empress. All of those have been covered. So you can check those out. I believe I am under a playlist under Tamora Pierce. So, fantastic age range. Again, I read these in my 20s, but these are definitely teen, maybe late preteen, depending on your kids. Because again, one thing to mention throughout the series, Dane ends up in a romantic relationship with Newmar. It's not, again, very explicit, and you really do not get into anything until she's 16. But she's 13, he's 29 when they meet. So the age difference is rather large. And this is a massive spoiler, she's half god. You find this out in the Realms of the Gods, which is the last book in the series. So again, it's very, very weird. But again, he's a very magical wizard. She's half god. But again, there's a massive age range because again, when they meet, he's 29, she's 13. But you don't get anything besides kissing at the very end of the last book and some indications in the Emperor Mage how pissed off she is when she thinks he's dead. But those are the next books. Fantastic series. I really do love them. I hope you finish watching the rest of the series. I do a lot of book reviews on the channel. If you've never watched this channel before, I do film reviews, I do book reviews. I'm adding more homeschooling stuff as we go on. As of the shooting of this specific video, my daughter is 3. So yeah, we're not fully getting into the homeschooling stuff yet. I also will cover field trips. I have some travel stuff on here. By the time you guys see this, I'll have at least 4 videos, I think, up of our vacations. I'll add more as we take more trips and we have more time to do that, as well as various field trips. I covered our aquarium, our local zoo, as well on our butterfly place. I may have a few more stuff up there depending on what's going on by the time you guys see this, because again, this is September of 2022. You guys won't be seeing this till like spring of 2023. So we will see. Look forward to that. My book reviews are on Mondays, every Monday. And I have a backlog, not a backlog, but I have a catalog already. So, and my film reviews are Fridays, and sometimes those include YouTube videos. So if you are just getting to this channel, please like and subscribe. Leave a positive comment if you have one, and check out the channel. Thank you.